I just keep on every month passes. I just keep on increasing the amount of work I have to do. Just keep on increasing, keep on increasing. But hey, that because I have a vision for what I want to accomplish with what we're doing here. So as you can see, the article had to do with the books that I recently acquired, um, and the reading that I'm doing, and I want to share it with everybody because this stuff plays such an important role in what we do here at the school. You know how we decipher what we're deciphering on the charts. It's like, the charts is the world we live in, right? The charts are the world that we live in. And so how do we decipher what's taking place? If you live like most live in society without having a proper education, you're gonna find yourself falling into the traps, just like the markets are waiting for retail traders to fall into the traps.
Hmm.
So how do you prevent yourself from falling into the traps? Well, first of all, you have to understand how the market works, how it really works, and understand how to analyze data and extract information from it. So, so this is going to always play an important role here at the school and in the Aruja reports, is breaking down information. And I have to tell you, like I was mentioning in the report, I've been just so excited about these books and reading these books and gaining the knowledge that's contained in these books. Because one of the things that this author writes in the Great Conversation, the first book, is that back in the 1950s, 52, I believe, um, when they were thinking about putting this collection of books together, the vast majority of this work was you the average person was not able to put their hands on it. It's either it didn't exist for you to even purchase, or if you wanted to purchase it, the cost of it was way too expensive that your average person couldn't even afford it. So the vast majority of the works contained in these books were unattainable. Your average person could not get their hands on it. So then who had access to this work? It was, prominent families, people that had a lot of money that could afford to buy copies of this work. So when they thought
Oh.
about putting these books together, 1954, when they thought about putting these books together, and this is 1954, okay, we're talking about 70 years ago,
Hmm.
you still had a lot of decency in the world where those that had power and abilities, they envisioned a world of people being educated properly, and they were seeing that there was a lack of this liberal education in the school system at the time because it was slowly being taken out. So when they decided to put these works together, it was with the intention of getting these books in the hands of as many people as possible, because even back in the 50s, they saw how our democracy was falling apart. And they knew that the democracy was falling apart because people were not educated. If you had people educated, then they would clearly understand what was happening. So, in an attempt to save our democracy, they said, let's put these books together. Let's endure the expense of purchasing these copies and getting the licensing to be able to mass produce it. And let's put these books together. So I purchased the set, and I couldn't tell you how happy I was to do that. And so I started reading through it, and just a really quick. Are you guys interested in this, or you guys just want me to
Sure,
move on
sure.
to the charts?
No, this is cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Like for instance, you have a book that was written by a guy by the name of Hippocrates. Actually, he didn't write the book. It's a guy by the name of Galen. Galen is the one that wrote the works of Hippocrates, right? And doctors,
Hmm.
when they become doctors, they swear by the Hippocratic oath, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
Hippocratic oath comes from Hippocrates. And so
Hmm.
was very interested in reading this guy. And this book was written, he was born, I think it was 400 BC, okay, before Christ, 400 BC. This is 2,500 something years ago, okay, almost 2,500 years ago. And here's the funny thing, right? We're told that back in the day, people didn't know much. But today, people know a lot because time has passed. We've learned since our early mistakes back in the day. And, I can't see any other way than the exact opposite to be true. The more you the more you learn, the more you read, the more you become educated, the more you realize the opposite is true. They try to make it seem like we're like a fine wine. And as the years pass, we get greater and greater. I don't see it that way. As the way I see it is, history has proven, from what I see, that knowledge, it's like, it's like an old log home, that goes untreated. The logs start to deteriorate. The longer it's out there, it starts to deteriorate, and it just
Mhm.
gets worse and worse, and mold starts to grow on the wood, and the wood starts to fall apart. It gets worse with time. Why?
Mhm.
Because it's not being maintained. That's why, because it's not being maintained. It's just left to disintegrate. And if you leave something exposed to the elements without you putting the time and effort to maintain it, it just will rot and fall apart. And so it really is like this. And when you ask yourself, why would we in society be told that, you know, back in the day people didn't know much, right? We're always told that. There's this thing
Yeah.
about, oh, back in the day people didn't know that much like we know now. Back in the
Mhm.
day they were they died younger than today. Back in the day there was so much more disease than today. Back in the day people didn't understand certain things that we understand now, right? you
Yeah.
get you get this impression that this is what is being taught to us. But when you study the works of the ancient days, the ancient times, you realize these people were more intelligent than what we are today. Okay, a lot more intelligent. And so when you read Hippocrates, Hippocrates was the medical guy. All right, he was the medicine guy. He knew about the body. And it's funny, a few years ago, I found out about this diet called the SCD diet. And upon deeper research, I found that this diet is what a lot of alternative medicine, to help people with fighting cancer, and what was the other one? A lot of kids have it nowadays.
Down syndrome.
No, not Down syndrome. It's
Um,
part of it. It's
autism.
autism.
Autism?
Yeah,
Autism.
autism. Mhm.
So the SCD diet is basically eating a diet where you have no grains, no sugar, no processed food, no dairy. Okay,
Hmm.
you cut all those out. So all you eat is real food.
Mhm.
And and I did that. I did that for a few years. And what you'll find is your brain will think better. You'll have more energy. You'll lose all the excess weight, and this will happen without you doing any exercise, without you doing anything. You'll just shed off weight like you have no idea.
Wow.
And so they're using this diet for cancer patients, and for people with autism.
Yeah.
You'll realize the reason why kids that have autism, how they're coming back to being normal through that diet, is because what you're basically doing is you're providing the body with the nutrition, and you're detoxifying the body, and making it the strongest it can be, so that it can detox itself from what was injected into the child.
The vaccine.
So it all
Yeah.
makes complete sense when you put all this stuff together. So over the weekend, I got out my Hippocrates book because I was very curious to see what kind of things
Mhm.
he was talking about. So I started reading through it, and the first couple pages is basically this SCD diet. And I was talking to my wife about that. And I'm like, we came across a lot of books talking about this SCD diet, and the woman who wrote it, she was like hailed as like the second coming. And I said, you know what? There was nothing very special about this woman, because all she did was she read Hippocrates and she broke it into more simple terms, and she wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book. And that's all she did. She didn't reinvent the wheel here. The wheel was
Mm-hmm.
invented. The only thing is that when you read Hippocrates, the English that he uses, the way he puts together sentences and paragraphs, it's unlike what you see today in the world.
Hmm.
It's not like anything you see in books today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a new way of communicating, but so much information is communicated in one sentence, and we're not used to that, right? We're not used to reading one sentence and it communicating so many layers of depth to making you understand something. We're not used to that in today's world. In our school systems, we're taught reading to a level of grade six. Grade six is like you read a sentence. Uh, Bill went to the store and bought milk. That's just the gist of it. There's no real depth to those sentences. So when you read a work like Hippocrates, it takes a while to understand what this man is trying to convey to you. It's not easy. But in the first few pages of what he was writing, he was talking about um, how he came to learn about the human body and how the body works. And in the first few pages, he says something very, very interesting. To sum it up, he said this. He said, what you're going to find is that I've discovered how the body works. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. And if anybody in the future begins any new type of investigation or subject into the matter of health, they are deceiving themselves and they are deceiving you, because there are no other investigations that need to be had besides what I am going to lay out for you. And
Hmm.
to prove what I am telling you, I'm going to detail it in my body of work. Okay? That's a massive statement.
Yeah.
That's a massive statement. But why would somebody say something like that? To an uneducated person, we would hear that statement and we'd be like, well, that's literally impossible for you to say that. Because from our perspective, it would be literally impossible to say that, because we think to ourselves, so much time has passed, 2,500 years has passed, and we have
Mm-hmm.
technology that you didn't have back then. And we're able to examine things that you weren't able to examine. So that's how our perspective would be. But again, if you took on the work of all these great thinkers and started to learn what they were teaching, you'd realize that there are certain truths that people know, that they come to know, because when you come to know a certain truth, you know that truth is the truth. It's like the truth that we came to know about the markets is that the markets is manipulated. So could I not write a book and say the markets are manipulated? That is one thing I can tell you. The markets are manipulated, and the institutions who control the markets, they use trend lines and all other sorts of the mainstream type of analysis to lure retail traders to take the opposite trades that they are taking. That is an undisputed fact. And if anybody tells you any different, then they're deceiving you. I could make that statement, couldn't I?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Because that's a fact. We
Yeah.
know that. We know enough about the markets to know that that's a fact. So I get the point that he's trying to make, and I'm very, very curious to read his work to see where he's going to go with this. So I find it extremely interesting, Caroline. The diet, it's called the simple carbohydrate diet. But the thing is this: if you don't have good health, the only thing you have to do to improve your body is to cut out sugar, cut out grains, cut out processed food, and cut out dairy. Okay? That's basically it. Because sugar is poison, processed food is garbage and poison. Grains are produced in ways that are not good for us, and a lot of it's been genetically modified, so it's not real food. Like wheat, you can't get wheat that's not genetically modified. Okay, it doesn't exist anymore. It used to, but it doesn't exist anymore. So any bread you eat, anything that you eat that has wheat in it, and wheat's in everything. Go to the grocery store and look at products and see how many products have wheat in it. Wheat has been modified. It's not what was given to us. It's been changed. So if you eat something that's been changed, what do you think it does to you? Okay, so you cut out wheat, you cut out grains, you cut out sugar, you cut out processed food because all that stuff is not good for you. And milk, it's garbage. It's pasteurized, it's filtered, and the bacteria has been killed out of it, and all the stuff that you're supposed to have, it's been removed. Okay? Like if you research, milk, you know, back in the day people used to milk their cows and then drink the milk, right? There's no, killing of the bacteria in the milk. They drank the milk straight out of the cow with the bacteria in it. Why? Because it was good for you. Where's that static coming from? Jay, that's coming from your mic for some reason. Um, do you know what that problem is? Oh, you self-muted. Okay. So it's like, the milk that they drank from the cows had bacteria in it, and it was good for you. You needed that bacteria. You know, it's only in the last 100 years that they've really pushed this idea that bacteria is the devil that's going to kill you. It's not true. So the reason why you have to stay away from milk is because all the good things that make milk good for you has been removed. And unless you're drinking milk straight from a cow that's been eating grass, that's been walking around outside, that's healthy, that has sunshine, unless you're drinking that milk, you shouldn't be drinking milk. Period. So you remove those, and your health comes back incredibly quick. So they're using these techniques to help people, and it makes complete sense because you're detoxifying and you're bringing your health back. You're just making your body have, um, uh, you're creating an ecosystem within your body that is healthy, pretty much. So it's called the SED diet. It's really good. This Hippocrates book that I was reading, unbelievable, unbelievable. The first couple pages was basically, like I said, anybody tries to tell you any different from what I'm telling you in this book, they're deceiving you. And I'm going
Hmm.
to lay out exactly why that is the truth in my work. And so, and how interesting, since his works, there's been a lot of other forms of study that have popped out, you know, um, mental illness, uh, the germ theory, a lot of other stuff has come out. So very interesting. So if you were to read Hippocrates in school, they would have taught you Hippocrates in school, and you would have learned what you needed to learn from the great works so that you knew how to think on your own. Because again, he's not telling you, read my work and believe it because I'm telling you it. No great author will tell you that. They'll say, here's my points, you take the data, you analyze it for yourself, and you come to the conclusion that you want to come to. But I'm telling you, this is my work, this is what I've concluded, but read it and see it for yourself. So I thought that very interesting that he wrote that, and that some of the first few pages of his work were detailing this, basically this SED diet, about the foods you need to eat to maintain your health and what foods you should stay away from and what foods animals should be eating. You know, the foods that
Yeah.
animals should be eating.
Hmm.
You know, you think about it, you know, a cow is supposed to be out on the grass, walking around, getting exercise, getting sunshine, interacting with other cows, and eating grass that has not been sprayed with any pesticides. Okay? That's how it's supposed
Yeah.
to work. The cow's supposed to eat, get fat, and then down the road, when you slaughter it, you take the meat, you cook it, you eat it. And what you're eating is the healthiness of the cow. All right.
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
you look at today how things work. A massive amount of cows. They're stuck in these indoor enclosed areas. They have no room to move. They're treated like prisoners. They're fed corn, genetically modified corn. Okay. So now the body is not healthy because it's not eating what it's supposed to. It's not getting the sunshine. It's not getting the exercise. It's not able to enjoy a good life. So what happens, right? If you study botany, if you study the, you know, growing vegetables, growing flowers, you'll learn that any professional knows that if you have a plant that's not doing well, it's because the soil, the environment, the amount of sun, and the amount of food it's getting is off, period. Okay? Nobody says this flower is not doing well because it caught, a disease from the flower next to it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
flower's not doing well because it doesn't have what it needs to be well.
That is
So
true.
then it becomes, it looks diseased, okay, because it starts to fall apart. And so if the plant next to it looks diseased, you don't say, oh, this plant caught this cold from this plant next door. No, they're in the same soil. They're both not being fed. They're both not getting the proper amount of sunshine. And so that's why these two are like this. That's how it works in botany. It's not even a discussion. It is like that. And there's no ands ifs or buts about it. So you take that same concept. Why would we be any different than plants? Why would animals be any different than nature? There is no difference. It's the same thing. So if you have a cow that's stuck in a farm under some, rooftop, eating garbage food, not getting nutrition, not living a happy life, not getting sunshine, not getting exercise, guess what? Its body starts to deteriorate.
Hmm.
So the bad bacteria starts to overgrow. The ecosystem within the cow starts to become unbalanced. And so you know what happens when a ecosystem becomes unbalanced? You start to have dead cells, dead flesh. So what happens with dead flesh? Bacteria grows on it and starts to eat the dead flesh. That's your body's way of keeping you alive, to get rid of the dead flesh. But then the big cattle producing industry, they're like, oh, we can't have that dead flesh be eaten. Then we're going to have less meat to sell. So they inject them with antibiotics. The antibiotics go in and kill that bacteria that's there for a reason, to eat the dead meat. Okay, and then they kill the cow. They sell the cow with all this rotten meat, all this dead meat with no bacteria. The bacteria couldn't do its job that it was there for. And then you go to the store and you buy this meat and then you eat it. And then you get sick and then you go to the doctor and they say you have a virus. So anyways, great work, great books. I am reading them. I'm going to continue reading them. There's 54 books in the set, and they go from Homer all the way to Freud, all throughout the last couple thousand years, all the great thinkers and what they've laid out. So I will share that with you as I go along this journey, what I'm discovering, some very interesting points. I will always tie it into what it is that we're doing with the markets as well. Plays a very important role in what we do. So the market summary, I wanted to point out what was taking place with gold and what we needed to see in terms of momentum building to the upside.